Why do these two shots feel different? Between these two shots, a ton of talking has happened. And that's basically what 12 Angry Men is. No action, no spectacle, just raw dialogue. So if nothing's really happened, why the big difference? The secret is in what we view and how we view it. I recently read the book written by 12 Angry Men's director Sidney Lumet, and in that book he describes some of the thought process that went into the making of the movie. As the movie progresses and the conflict grows, the positioning of the camera shifts. Lumet writes, "As the picture unfolded, I wanted the room to seem smaller and smaller. That meant I would slowly shift to longer lenses as the picture continued." He continues on to say that he shoots the first third of the movie above eye level, then the second third at eye level, and finally the final third of the movie is shot below eye level. The difference is subtle, but it's there nonetheless. Through these small, intentional camera shifts, Lumet creates real action and conflict, even without a single punch thrown or a grand explosion. Let's take a closer look and learn how we can use subtle camera work to improve our own storytelling. After that, we'll unpack a case study of some modern-day examples and learn how their camera work affects the story. So how exactly does Lumet's technique work? We first need to talk about lenses. What are they and what do they accomplish? Sidney Lumet discusses them in his book. Lenses vary from 9mm to 600mm and beyond. We refer to the lenses on the lower millimeter range as wide-angle lenses, and to those from 75mm on up as long lenses. So what exactly is the difference between a wide-angle lens and a long lens? Lumet explains that a wider-angle lens will take in a larger area of light than a longer lens does. To photograph the same picture, a long lens would have to be positioned much farther away than a wider-angle lens in order to fit the subject entirely in the frame. Sidney Lumet continues, wide-angle lenses tend to distort the picture. The wider the lens, the greater the distortion. The distortions are spatial. Objects seem farther apart, especially objects lined up from foreground to background. Longer lenses compress the space. Objects that are lined up from foreground to background seem closer together. The longer the lens, the closer the objects seem, both to the camera and to one another. Already we can see that the choice of a lens can greatly affect the feel of a shot. But the differences in effects don't stop there. Wide-angle lenses have a much greater focal depth of field, the amount of space in which an object moving toward or away from the camera stays in focus without changing the focus of the lens mechanically. If I wanted to get rid of as much background as possible, I'd use a long lens. The background, even though it seems closer, is so out of focus that it becomes unrecognizable. This is exactly what you see in a large majority of movies today. They're shot on long lenses and the background is so out of focus that it could literally be anything. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. It can actually make some shots look quite cinematic. This technique is opposed to some earlier films which typically use wider angle lenses, resulting in a clearer and more comprehensive background. Like I said earlier, Sidney Lumet plays these lenses to his advantage, switching to longer ones as the movie ramps up. This squeezes everything in the room closer together, matching the rising tension with visual constriction. The viewer is trapped in the room along with the 12 jurors until they can make their decision. Not only that, but we as the viewers are, along with the walls, literally drawn into the narrative. Outside of the changing lenses, Sidney Lumet also varies how he frames his subjects throughout the movie. At the beginning, a majority of the shots take place above eye level. As a viewer, this gives us room to breathe. We're like a fly on the wall, observing the events that occur while still being far off. Throughout Act 2, the camera is placed at eye level. We're now grounded within the room. The viewer is given a seat at the table. While juror number 8 asks the other jurors in the room to examine and carefully consider the evidence of the trial, he is simultaneously inviting us to do the same. We're no longer observers, but we ourselves become wrapped up in the drama. Finally, in the last moments of the film, a shift occurs where most shots we see, especially close-ups, are positioned beneath eye level. We become cramped and overwhelmed by the tension and feel as though we might get trampled on if temperatures rise any higher. These camera techniques significantly enhance the quality of storytelling. Even though there is no physical action taking place on the screen, other elements are at play which affect our emotional response. The camera is a living, breathing element of the film and is used to create visual action where there originally might be none. The changes in positioning and lenses, though they're barely noticeable, pull us right in. ramping up the emotional stakes and making that static jury room feel like a battlefield of ideas. I want to take this concept a little further and do a little case study with some more modern examples. The Guilty is a 2021 Netflix film starring Jake Gyllenhaal as a cop who is working as a 911 operator while he awaits a court date regarding a violent incident he had while on duty. Throughout the movie, Gyllenhaal's character attempts to save a woman he believes has been abducted all while on the phone. It's an interesting concept, and I thought that it's pretty comparable to 12 Angry Men, in the sense that the setting is very, very limited. We never see any outside action occur, and the entire movie takes place inside the 911 call center, so all the action takes place in the form of dialogue. Also, the Netflix version is actually a remake of a Danish original film, so I thought it would be fun to compare the two and how they match up against the techniques found in 12 Angry Men. In Netflix's version, we can see right away that Gyllenhaal is typically isolated in the frame and the background is obscured. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. This type of focal length can help reinforce the fact that Gyllenhaal's character is isolated from his own peers. However, this pretty much remains a constant throughout the entire movie and can become kind of stale. It would have been nice to see more variation here, outside of the occasional establishing shots of the call center. Then there are the ultra close-ups everywhere, like that sweaty lip shot in the first few minutes. This movie begins with an oversaturated use of the close-up, and by the time we reach the climax, all of the edge is lost. I think the Danish original does a pretty good job of reserving the close-up for more appropriate moments. Most of the time, our central character is framed in a medium close-up. Counterintuitively, I think this adds to the impact of the film by making the true close-ups hit way harder. The biggest difference I can see between the two movies is that there are significantly fewer angles utilized by the Danish original, with less cuts in between them. In the American version, we bounce around countless points of view. To add to this, in the second act, we see a shift to a handheld camera meant to emphasize the increasing instability in Gyllenhaal's mental state. In contrast, the Danish camera work is mostly stable. So what's the big deal? I mean, at the end of the day, what's even the difference? Well, I do think that the two movies, although nearly identical in plot, come across pretty differently. In my opinion, I think the Netflix remake suffers from an attempt to create visual action where there really shouldn't be any. To me, it communicates a lack of trust in the storyline to stand on its own, and there seems to be an attempt to force some kind of visual spectacle into the film. I think that the Danish version does a good job at staying reserved by not going overboard with the camera work here. I know it's cliche, but sometimes less really is more. The consistent use of minimal angles really lets actor Jakob Cedergren's performance breathe. Subtle camera work really complements his performance, letting it shine through. Meanwhile, I do think Gyllenhaal's solid acting gets a bit washed out by the remake's visual overload. The camera work in the Danish version works better in my opinion and doesn't force action for the sake of action. Is it perfect? No, but it shows that less with the camera can accomplish more than you think. Visuals don't have to be crazy to be interesting, they just have to be thoughtful. I was surprised to learn that audiences generally preferred the original version of The Guilty over the American remake. Sure, there are a number of reasons for this, but I believe camera work differences play a big role, and 12 Angry Men's camera work really nails this concept. It's tempting to chase interesting shots in every frame, but try to keep the main point in mind. Ask yourself, am I distracting from the story or am I enhancing it? 12 Angry Men lets the story talk and lets the camera capture it. Good camera work doesn't have to be noticeable. Great camera work can oftentimes just be the cherry on top to an already great story. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new about the art of film. If you liked this video and want to see more film breakdowns and writing tips, please consider subscribing to my channel and take a look at my other videos. Leave a comment down below and let me know, which version of The Guilty do you prefer? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.